Ciao Bella, welcome to Bella Uncinetto. I'm Christina, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. If you're new, welcome in. If you're returning, welcome back. No matter how long you've been here, I always appreciate your time. Frog in my throat, excuse me. Today we are going to take another adventure in Sicily. This adventure I took in December of 2024 when my son was here for winter break. I was going to do this before my birthday, but I had so many things planned for my birthday. There were other things that I needed to do, videos I wanted to get out, so it's coming out now. Um, it was an MWR trip, and if you are new here and you haven't heard me talk about those before, the base that I work on has essentially like a travel agency in a way. Um, and there are things that you can like have them book things and have them be your guide for different things. But then there are also things that they just put on. They have a calendar of events that they share, and you can sign up for things. And I've done several trips just because some of the things that they would tell me about the area, I wouldn't learn on my own. And it's nice to be able to just catch a ride, know that when I go, everything is paid for. I don't have to pay for anything else unless I want like a souvenir or something, but I can just go and come back, and I don't have to think about how I'm going to get there, trying to fit my car down any small tiny road, anything like that, right? Um, so I have enjoyed several of those trips, and this was one of them. Now, I did this when my son was here because this particular trip had two options. And this is the first time I've seen them do this. That doesn't mean they haven't done it before. I just probably wasn't paying attention. But they had the option for a hike up this really tall mountain, I guess. I don't know if they call I think it's, yeah, a mountain. Because it's the Pelotorian, I'm going to say that wrong, mountains. And then, or you could tour the town. So you had the two options of what you wanted to do. And everyone rode on the same bus. But when we got to the town, they stopped and dropped the people off that were doing the town part off to meet the person who was local who was going to take you around. And then the rest of the people went and did the tour. I mean, did the hike. Excuse me. So I thought it would be fun to do that together. So my son could do the hike that he enjoys. He loves doing those kinds of things. He likes being out in nature, and I like being out in nature, but hikes are not things that I can do anymore with my ankle the way that it is, and uh, now my hip, and all of these other things as I get older. So, but that was a chance for us to ride there together, right? And then he could do the hike, and then my daughter and I, we could tour the town, and then we came back together for lunch before we left. So he could talk to us about what he saw, we could talk to him about what we saw. And the people, like the people that went on the hike and the people that, like, we conversed and shared, and it was really lovely. So uh, I thought that that would be a good activity for us and something that would get us out of the house, not cost an arm and a leg, but also give us something to do that we hadn't done before, right? So, the town that we went to, you'll see in the title of the video, is Novara di Sicilia, and it's in the Messina region of Sicily. And I put maps up so that you could see um, where it is. And it was quite a drive to get there Sorry, excuse me. And we actually had to take a different route because there had been some rain and there were some roads that were closed because they slid away. And I know that in certain parts of the U.S. right now, there have been some really bad storms. My mom lives in Arkansas, and thankfully, she wasn't hit by one of the tornadoes. Her house wasn't damaged. She did lose power for a while, but I do still have friends that are in Arkansas that have really bad damage to their homes, flooding, tornadoes, trees down on their houses, um, as well as people that I know that are still without power in Arkansas. So um, it's been, it wasn't a storm like that bad, but it was heavy, heavy rains that washed part of the road away. So we had to take a different route, which added some time there and back because we had to take the same road and it was very windy and really, I don't think meant for a bus. Uh, but it wasn't like a huge, um, I lost the word, like the travel buses where you go. There's a word for the, and my brain is not thinking of it right now. Um, but it wasn't one of those. It was like a smaller bus. Still comfortable, but it wasn't as big. And so we went up, like I said, beautiful scenery. It was lovely. And they dropped us off at the town. And then my son went up to the hike. Now, like I said, I'm going to be adding pictures, but I'll put some of the pictures of the hike at the end because I didn't know anything about the hike. He just sent me the pictures because I was like, I'd love to see the scenery that you saw. So he sent me the scenery. And I'll put some of those in at the end. Now, when we went into this town, we had a person from base who was there with us. She works at the traveling place. But then there was a lady from the town who met us as well. And she was the one who had the keys to everything and talked to us about everything. But she talked pretty much in Italian, and then the lady translated. So it was nice to be able to have the translation because there were some things that I couldn't catch on to, and my daughter knows even less Italian than I do. So it was nice for her to be able to hear until she got bored and then she stopped paying attention. Because she'll listen for about 20-25 minutes. And if we stay at a place any longer than that and we're not moving around, she's bored. But the first place that we went to was a flour mill. And the mill was decorated for Christmas. And they said, they don't turn on any of the lights or anything until after it starts to get dark, like when the sun starts to go down. But they had all kinds of things. It was so cute. I can imagine the kids coming through and seeing all the things lit up. But this mill is the only one left in the area that still grinds the flour or mills the flour naturally. So because it's in the mountain range there, the water comes down the mountain. And as the water comes down the mountain, um, it's collected, right? And they can use it then to um, grind the flour. And people who grow the wheat or the whatever grains, they will bring their plants to be milled there. Um, but they told us it's getting fewer and fewer and fewer. There were originally 14 mills that went all the way from really, really high up the mountain, and then they would come down. And they were each owned by different families. Uh, and they said that sometimes if there was a dispute um, from one family that was a little bit higher up and a family that was a little bit lower on the mountain, they would cut off the water. They would just cut off the water supply for their mill so that everyone below that wasn't able to use the water. I was like, whoa. I mean, talk about hurting your pocket. It wasn't just hurting the dispute with the mill that they were having the argument with. It was everyone else. So it was a lot of pressure, like to not get into an argument, I guess. Um, but they even showed us how they could adjust for the different fineness. And they had some for sale there. I did not buy any simply because I still have at least one bag of flour in my pantry. Now, I bought it from the grocery store, but I don't have the time that I would like to have to bake and cook um, from scratch. Like, I like to make pancakes from scratch. I like to make biscuits. I like to make cakes and cookies. I mean, I like to do all of those things. I really do enjoy baking. Not very good at the decorating part, but I like the baking part. um, but I was like, it doesn't make sense for me to buy this flour. And the second part of this is you weren't going by, the bus was gone, right? There was no place to drop off these heavy bags of flour. You were going to have to carry them all day. I wasn't doing that because I already had water and other things in my bag that I had because we were going to be walking around a town all day. So I didn't want to try to be hauling one or two or however many bags of flour because they had different kinds of flour too. You had red wheat flour, you had the durum wheat flour, and they were used for different things. So some were made for bread, some were made for pasta, some were made for cakes, right? So they had different ones there, and he would tell you what they were for. And he was saying that he was the only person left in his family to run the mill, with the exception of his children, but he wasn't sure that his children wanted to keep the mill. So he was trying to keep it going for as long as possible, and his dad still comes to work, at the mill, but not as often because his dad's like in his 90s. And he was like, it's just not something that he can do, the heavy lifting and things like that all the time. But there are still customers who love to see him and want to interact with him and do business with him. So I thought that was very, very lovely. Um, I will put in a video of the flower, so I'll put in the video here so that you can see how it all works. Okay, I hope that wasn't too terribly loud for you. I hope that wasn't, you didn't get motion sick or anything from any of that. I mean, it wasn't a long video or anything, but I thought it was really, really interesting to see how you can um, use, right, your natural resources to have things done, and to know that that's one of the only ones left in the area to do something like that, um, because that's what they now call like the old ways, right? And the town is dwindling in population because it's high in the mountains, and people, there's not a lot of work. Um, People don't want to farm the land and do like the agricultural things anymore. So, the town is slowly dying, like so many small towns, not just here, but all over the world, right? Because people want to leave and go and do bigger and better things. But who's going to do those things? Like, you still need those things, and machines aren't always the best for those things. It reminds me of when we were in Trapani, which is on the other side of Sicily, and they were talking about the salt pans and doing it by hand instead of with machines, because with the machines you have to rinse the salt because of the oil from the machines that gets on the salt, and then you have to chemically add in the minerals, and you can't add in chemically all of the minerals that the salt naturally has in it. So, um, doing the flour right in the with the water, the natural way of milling the flour, really um, gave me that parallel. So the next place that we went was a theater. Now, the inside of this theater gave me the heebie jeebies, but only because the biggest part of it was pink. And you'll see that in the photos. Um, it was, oh my goodness, it was insane. Um, Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But it was um, very, very pink. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to remember. While we were there, they were talking about how the town opens up the theater for all kinds of things, festivals, um, and other activities for the town. It's kind of almost like a town hall in a way. I mean, they have a town hall, but it's a lot like a town hall in that uh, they will open up and they'll have their dances and their food and all of this stuff, and people will just be there for hours and hours and hours and hours, right? But one of the things that they said was there was a theater there. Here we go. Because there was a composer. Here we go. So it's the Casa I'm going to say this wrong. Casalina? Casalaina Theater. So Teatro Casalina. And it's one of the oldest um, theaters in Sicily. And this composer actually, there was an issue with his mother in law. And his mother in law said that she wanted to go back um, to the city of Messina instead of staying in Novara for something or another. And they went back to Messina, and while they were there, there was an earthquake, right, um, in 1908, and he died there. And he wouldn't have died if he had stayed in Novara di Sicilia. So I think that's very interesting. But he had a lot of work. They were very proud of his work. They played us some of his music. It was very beautiful. And in the theater retained all of its original appearance until 1958, when they had to replace the wooden frame with the concrete frame because it was deteriorating. So it was enlarged at that point, but they tried to keep as much original as they could. So that was the theater. So we didn't get to see like a performance or anything, But we did get to um, see the theater and hear the music. Um, then, as we were going up, we were walking up this hill, and we were um, learning about this cheese festival. So there is a cheese. Um, I want to say. Nope. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to say the wrong kind of cheese. I know how to say it, but I wanted to make sure it was the right kind of cheese. So they have this cheese called Majorca cheese. Oh my God, it's delicious. But it's a combination. It's mainly sheep's milk, but it's mixed with goat's milk cheese. Oh my goodness, that cheese is phenomenal. Um, After we finished in Novara, and for Christmas, one of my friends who got here at the same time I did, and we do a lot of celebrations together. Um, we went over to their house, and I purchased some of this cheese, and I brought it, as part of my contribution to the meal. And they were like, "Oh my God, where did you get this?" And I was like, I got it at this little bitty town that we went to on a tour." And they were like, "Oh my God, it's so delicious," and it so is. And it's made there. But also, the other thing about this cheese is there is a cheese wheel festival. So it's the Festa del Mallorca, and they take huge wheels of cheese. Now, we didn't get to see them do this because the festival is actually in February, and I could have gone to that, but um, it wasn't just you were there at the festival all day. Like the cheese wheel rolling wasn't until later in the afternoon, so you were actually touring the town again, which I was like, I don't really need to tour the town again. I just want to go see the cheese wheels roll down the hill. Um, but I didn't end up going. But we did see pictures of it. So, and this is a big deal to them. This is huge, huge, huge competition. There's teams, and they're trying to see who can get their cheese wheel down the hill in the fewest rolls, right, without tipping over, all this stuff. It's a huge, huge thing. And I'll see if I can find. I know there's websites that talk about it, and I'll put those in the description box. But we were walking up one of the hills, and they were like, "This is one of the biggest hills in the town, and you can." They roll the wheels down this hill, and the view from the as we were walking up, there are some islands that I hope to get to at some point while I'm here, called the Aeolian Islands, and they're off the coast of Messina. And there's another volcano on one of those. There's three Aeolian Islands, and there's on one of them there's a volcano, Stromboli, I think, and it's pretty active. But that's where some of the earthquakes in Messina come from, is the volcanic activity between Etna and Stromboli. Like, if they're both going off, it can cause a little bit of a disturbance. Um, but you could see the islands clearly. That was my point. You could see the islands clearly from some of the points as we were walking up the hill. And I thought, oh my goodness, that would be so stunning to go there and see how fantastic those islands must be. I mean, people live there, much like the Egadi Islands off of the coast of Trapani. I never realized how many islands there were that were included in Italy until I just started living here, right? Because when we went to Venice, of course, you had Murano, Burano, Torcello, and the Egadi Islands. There's Marettimo, Favignana, Levanzo, and then um, I don't remember the names of the Aeolian Islands, but there's those. And then there's Sardinia, and above Sardinia, there's more islands, and off of to the side of Sardinia, there's more islands, and that's all Italy, right? And you're just like, oh my goodness, there's so much. It's not just the boot, right? People think of Italy and they just think about the boot, and it's so much more than that. And it is just amazing to me. I guess because I always lived in the United States, I never, you know, I mean, it's not landlocked necessarily in that you have the coast, but I lived mostly in landlocked states. So I didn't really get to travel islands that much. So for me, I think when I hear the word island, I'm like, let's go. I don't know. But I seem to have traveled a lot of them. um, and I'm hoping, like I said, to get to the Aeolian Islands um, maybe this year, maybe next year. I don't know. They're not far. I mean, from Catania to the ferry in Messina is probably about an hour ish, maybe a little bit more than an hour. And then to get, I don't know how long it would take to get to the islands um, from Messina. And then you would have to take, I think, a hydrofoil between islands if you wanted to travel between islands. Anyway, and you can only do it at certain times of the year because the weather gets not so good, especially in the winter. Um, but that's not the point of this video. And then after we did the, um, walked up the hill and they talked to us about the festival, we did go into a shop and they were cutting. That's where I bought the Majorca cheese. And then we went to lunch. And we went to lunch at a castle. It's the castle itself. There's still part of it there, but the place where we ate was not part of the original castle. But we had a traditional, like, agroturismo style lunch where they literally just bring you plate after plate after plate after plate of food. So traditionally, you have 4 courses with uh, an Italian meal. You'll have your antipasto, which is your appetizer. Then you usually have some sort of pasta dish. Then you usually have, so that's your primi piatti, and then your secondi piatti is usually some sort of meat. And if you're vegetarian, like a plate of some sort of vegetable or something. And then you'll have some small dessert, right? But there are 4 courses. And if you go to an agroturismo, which is like a agricultural tourism place, right? They'll have a big lunch there or a big dinner, and you will have, I mean, and with the appetizers, not just one kind. They'll bring out 2, 3, 4 different kinds of appetizers, and there's all these different plates that are coming, right? Because you have fried this, you might have meats and cheeses, you might have something that's local to the area, something that they grow on their on site, something that they're known for. And then with the pasta, that's usually only one kind of pasta typically, unless it's a big, big group, and then they might have 2 different kinds, and you get to try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then the meat dish, sometimes there's 2, 3, 4 different kinds of meat. You could try this, that, and the other. And then the dessert, the one that we went to had like 4 different kinds, and they were small. I mean, I'm talking about like little bitty tiny pies or little bitty slices of cake. It's not like you get full plates of everything, right? But there's so much food. And if you've never been you get all this appetizer and you think, oh, well, let me eat, because, you don't realize that there's going to be 4 courses of food. And then the pasta comes out and you're like, oh man, you're still hungry. This is delicious. By the time the meat comes out, you're like, I don't want anymore. So, just learning that process. Um, and that was it for the town. By the time we got back, it was really, really late. We got stuck in traffic because we got stuck at the tolls. I don't know if there was an accident or something, but we were very, very late getting back, which wasn't a problem because, like, we were on winter break, so it wasn't like we were gonna be late for work or not get enough sleep or something. But it was still kind of like, oh, okay, well. But we had a good time, don't get me wrong. It was just having to drive back because where I live was closer to the place than driving to base for them to take us. So I wish that they could have just picked us up where, not where we live, not front door service, right? But if they could have, like, I could have dropped my car off at a gas station or something and they could have just picked us up, right? And then driven back by that gas station and dropped us off. But the roads here usually are divided. So if you go to a gas station going somewhere, you might pass that gas station going back, but it's going to be on the other side of the road and you can't get to it. So, uh, but sometimes you can get off the exit and it's still right there. It just depends on where you're going. So, I'm going to leave you with some pictures of the hike that my son took. I did not take these pictures. I don't know anything really about the hike. He was telling me a little bit. They didn't even get to go all the way up to the top like they had planned because it started raining, and then every single person on the hike slid down and they were muddy, muddy, muddy. So I know that was really uncomfortable to come back and have to sit and eat a meal in muddy, wet clothes. Um, and he was like, next time we do one of these, I'm packing some extra pants. And I was like, I don't blame you. But he had a good time. My daughter and I had a good time. And we got to share, right, our experiences and have some good food and have some laughs and have a lot of fun. So I hope that you have enjoyed all of this. I will leave links to the theater, the mill, the cheese festival. All that stuff will be in the description box if you want to check out more information. But until I see you again, be well, be safe, and be the change you wish to see in the world, everyone. Ciao bella!